Hello, my name is Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast for July 3rd to July 9th of 2016. And on July 3rd, we have the sun denoted here by this black circle with a dot in it. It's in Cancer. It's also in the 39th hexagram, and on the outside of the wheel, we have the chop mark for the 39, numbered from bottom to top. The 39 goes yin, yin, yang, yin, yang, yin. And then the 39th hexagram is mapped to an opening in an energy channel called a gate. And right here, this is the 39th gate of the Provocateur, the value of obstruction in provoking analysis, assessment, and reevaluation. It's located in the root center in an individual energy path in the knowing circuit called the Channel of Emoting, a design of moodiness that connects to its harmonic, the 55th gate of spirit. Abundance. Abundance is strictly a question of spirit. And I found human design to be amazingly accurate in describing the person that I use it as my primary tool when I provide readings. And we have the following activated gates on July 3rd. We have the sun in the 39th gate with the earth in the 38th gate. The north node is in the 64th gate with the south node in the 63rd gate. Mercury is in the 52nd gate. Venus is in the 53rd gate. Mars is newly direct in the 43rd gate. Jupiter is in the 47th gate. Saturn is retrograde in the 9th gate. Uranus is in the 42nd gate. We've got Neptune retrograde, and it's in the 63rd gate, which it shares with the south node. And Pluto is retrograde in the 54th gate. So obviously not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be very helpful if you know your own human design chart, because some of these transits will form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. And we begin the week with 3 channel definitions due to the transit field, with the north node in the 64 and Jupiter in the 47. We've got the channel of abstraction, the design of mental activity mixed with clarity, until August 3rd. The energy of this channel is about creating something new out of something old. This is about abstract thought being brought into the collective thought consciousness, the arts, philosophy, history, and culture. It's wonderful energy for telling stories about our experiences that inspire others, but can bring confusion when used to try to resolve our own issues. And the defined head center can bring pressure to those without to think about things that don't matter. And the defined eyes center can influence those without to be certain of something even when they're not. And then we've got Venus in the 53rd gate and Uranus in the 42nd gate, which brings us the channel of maturation, a design of balanced development until July 4th. Which brings the energy to be cautious about starting something new. I'm not really sure how this affects folks as a transit because it's so quick. But for folks who have this in their birth chart, it's about making that when they make a commitment, it has to be followed to its conclusion. So it might be a time to really be careful about making commitments, because it may be difficult to get out of it later. Obviously, following your strategy and authority is going to be the best way to figure out if anything that's presented to you is something you should engage in. The energetic is where we get the same experience over and over again. And if we try to abort it before completion, which can take 7 years, this could be a time when it sort of feels like that movie Groundhog Day, with experiences repeating cycles and that slowly bring us to a state of maturity and wisdom. The wisdom is that all life is a journey that never ends. And we may all feel more deeply attuned to the cycles of life for a few days, as we're more apt to notice planetary cycles, body cycles, historical cycles. With Mercury in the 52nd gate and Saturn in the 9th gate, we have the channel of concentration, a design of a determination until July 4th, which brings energy to be of service by improving something that will make a difference in the world. Folks with this channel bring focus and determination to anything they do individually or in groups through concentrating their being on their process. This may be a time when people are less tolerant of multitasking, preferring to focus on one activity at a time as a response to the pressure wanting to find a quiet and still place where they can concentrate their energy on the details of their process. And for with the defined root center for these two trances we just talked about, this can bring pressure to think about, to have folks feeling like in a hurry to get things done in order to release their stress. And the sacral definition can affect non-generator types and feeling busy and having the endurance to work. They also may think that they know when enough is enough, which could lead to the premature or abrupt ending to something that really needs more time. So July 3rd begins with the sun in the third line of the 39th hexagram. The sun in the 39-3 is responsibility, the avoidance of confronting obstacles if failure puts others at risk. Exalted, the great benefic, whose first consideration is for the larger framework. The energy to provoke through self-sacrifice. Detriment, the often disastrous assumption that others are more at risk if an obstacle is not confronted. The energy to provoke through the failure to make sacrifices. But then later on the 3rd, the sun moves into the 4th line of the 39th hexagram, and this shift happens at 4:25 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is 2025 UT, and the sun is detrimented in the 4th line of the 39th hexagram. Is described as temperance, careful evaluation and assessment before taking action. Detrimented, the faulty belief that willpower alone can overcome any obstacle, regardless of circumstances. The energy to provoke that ignores circumstances. And on the 4th, the sun then moves into the 5th line of the 39th hexagram at 4:01 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 20:01 UT. The sun in the 39-5 is described as single-mindedness, the rare ability not to overcome, but to bypass obstacles. Exalted, the imagination to establish new patterns that make obstacles irrelevant. The imaginative energy to provoke through bypassing obstacles. Detrimented, simple hard-headedness. Though less exalted, it can often often result in success and gather support by its very determination. The energy to provoke through hard-headedness. And also on the 4th, Mercury moves out of the 52nd hexagram and gate, and it joins the sun in the 39. And Venus moves out of the 53. And it moves up to the 62nd hexagram and gate, which means that we no longer have these two centers defined. So we get Venus up here in the 62nd. So Mercury in mythology was the messenger of the gods, and Ra described this as communication, expansion of human consciousness through communication, not just as words, but also as music. And Mercury is in the 39th gate of the Provocateur, obstruction, the value of obstruction in provoking analysis, assessment, and reevaluation. Mercury is detrimented in the 1st line of the 39th hexagram, which is described as disengagement, detrimented disengagement with the accompanying indecision as to when to re-engage, the refusal to confront obstacles without the capacity to know when to engage. Indecision is also provocation. And in the program, Mercury is about expression through communication. It influences the homogenized population to communicate about the themes of the gate and line that transiting Mercury inhabits. Its primary impact is psychological and impacts and not self-minded. It distorts the way we look at things in a way that leads to action. This conditions people to think and communicate about the same things. And in the 39th gate, I'd expect people to talk about feeling the pressure to find spirit. And then Venus, like we said, moves from the 53 to the 62 In human design, Venus is about morality, values, natural law in which we deal with the other and the consequences of the world around us. And Venus is in the 62nd gate of detail, preponderance of the small, caution and patience. Caution, patience, and detail produce excellence out of limitation. Venus is in the first line of the 62, which is described as routine, exalted, the ability to transcend the boredom of routine through a rich and daring fantasy life, the ability to organize the detail through fantasy, detrimented, rebellion, and this enormous waste of energy, the need for expression that ignores the details. And in the program, Venus is about control through maintaining the status quo in the way in which we operate with each other. And we experience the transiting planets through the Maya, and we're not here to avoid the Maya, but to embrace it as yourself through following your strategy and authority. On the 5th, the Sun then moves into the 6th line of the 39th hexagram at 3:36 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is 1936 UT. The Sun in the 39.6 is the troubleshooter, the natural gift for solving a problem, exalted practicality and the ability to guide and nurture others, the energy to provoke others by attempting to solve their problems. Detrimented ego dominance that generally abuses this gift for self-aggrandizement and personal ambition rather than for the benefit of others, the emotional drive to dominate that provokes others. And then on the 6th, the Sun moves out of the 39, leaving behind Mercury, and it moves into the 53, which then brings back this definition. And the Earth moves out of the 38, and it joins Pluto in the 54. The gate of ambition, the Marian maiden interaction in its mundane social context, but also one's mystical and cosmic relationships. And this shift happens at 3:12 Eastern Daylight Time, 1912 UT, and the Sun in the 53rd gate of beginnings development. Development is a structured progression that is both steadfast and enduring. And the Sun is in the first line of the 53, which is accumulation, exalted, the dissolution of old forms, but not at the expense of valued components that will be strained and transformed. The pressure to begin something new, not from scratch, but based on the foundation of the old. Detrimented development hampered by criticism and the tendency to withdraw rather than make use of these experiences. The difficulty in starting something new because of the criticism that accompanied the old. And as we've moved from the 39 to the 53, we enter the gate of development. The 53rd gate is an abstract collective root center gate that brings the pressure to mature. It's a format gate. This is the gate of beginnings. It's harmonic. The 42nd gate it generates cycles in the channel of maturation. Folks with the 53 but without the 42 are often accused you start so many things but that you never finish. But that's their design. Often they find someone with the 42 who completes what the 53 begins. This is about sharing beginnings with the collective. In an undefined route, the 53 can be in a hurry to get free of things that it initiated. It's always important to start things correctly by following your strategy and honoring your authority. Its polarity, the 54th gate, is a tribal root center gate that brings the pressure to succeed. It carries the ambition to get resources to support the tribe. The 53 and the 54 bring us to the cross of penetration in the quarter of civilization, the pressure to begin something new that brings something into form. This is about the development of culture and society. This is about beginning new experiences. And with the Marian Maiden, the 54, this cross of penetration is a highly ambitious cross that it is rooted in starting things with the sun in the 53rd. And then also on the 6th, Mercury moves from the 39. It joins the sun in the 53. And Mercury, as we talked about before, is about communication of human consciousness through communication, but also as words, but also as music. And what might be communicated with Mercury in the 53rd? Well, I'd expect people to be talking about feeling the pressure to begin something new. And as we just said earlier, this is the gate of beginnings development, development as a structured progression that is both steadfast and enduring. And Mercury is in the first line of the 53, which is accumulation. With Mercury in the 53, Mercury and the Sun in the 53, connected with Uranus in the 52. We then have the Channel of Maturation again, a design of balanced development, which we talked about at the beginning of the report, and it will be with us until July 12th. So then on the 7th, the Sun then moves into the second line of the 53, at 2:47 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is 14:47 UT. The Sun in the 53-2 is described as momentum. Success breeds success. Exalted, the projection of early success nurtures further achievement. The pressure to start something new based on past success. Detriment, a tendency with early success to haste and imprudent action. The pressure based on success to be impatient for something new. On the 8th, the Sun then moves into the third line of the 53rd hexagram at 2:23 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is 18:23 UT. The Sun in the 53-3 is practicality, exalted in its most natural position, the concentration on avoiding conflict to ensure protection and continued development, the pressure to eliminate conflict in order to develop. Detriment, the unconscious provoking of conflict that logically threatens security and development. Energy which provokes conflict and threatens development. And then on the 9th, the Sun then moves into the fourth line of the 53rd hexagram at 1:58 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is 17:58 UT. The Sun in the 53-4 is assuredness, exalted, the ability to maintain the strength of one's individuality in complex and often awkward situations that ensure continued security and development. The pressure to maintain one's individuality in confused beginnings. Detriment, the persistent difficulty with embarrassing and awkward situations where normal emotional reactions may prove detrimental. Individual pressure for beginnings that create awkward and sometimes embarrassing situations. And on the 9th, Mercury moves from the 53, leaving behind the Sun, and it moves into the 62, and Venus moves from the 62 to the 56 gate just a few hours before, about, when I say 8 hours, yeah, so 8 hours before Mercury enters the 62. So for 8 hours, there is no 62 definition. So as we talked about before, Mercury is about communication, expansion of human consciousness through communication. So what might be communicated with Mercury in the 62? I'd expect to hear people say, I think, or I don't think. I think it's okay, or I don't think it's okay, because that's the voice of the 60-second throat gate. Again, this is the gate of detail, preponderance is a small caution. Patience and detail produce excellence out of limitation in the first line of the 62. This is routine, exalted, the ability to transcend boredom of routine through a rich and daring fantasy life, the ability to organize detail through fantasy, detriment, rebellion, and its enormous waste of energy that needs expression and ignores the details. And then we have Venus moving from the 62 to the 56. In human design, we talked about Venus being about values, morality, and natural law, in which we deal with the consequences of the other and the consequences of the world around us. And Venus in the 56th gate of stimulation, the wanderer, stability through movement, the preparation of continuity through linking of short-term activity. And in the first line of the 56, Venus is described as quality, exalted, the practical sense that even short-term activities should be of value, expression of practical ideas that have value, detrimented the ego drive to make an impression that will misuse energy in trivial pursuits, the drive to stimulate that will express any idea, no matter how trivial. So I'd like to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of the weekly neutrino forecast will be on July 10th, 2016. Should be available on the 9th, when we'll continue to look at the influence of the heavenly bodies as they transit the sky and the hexagrams of the I Ching. You can check us out on Facebook, Blogger, or YouTube, as this New World Birth presences in all those places. And I encourage you to share this information as videos or as text as widely as you choose. And invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you have any questions or you wish to schedule a reading. And I am providing readings. So if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I'd love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect with Skype to receive your reading. Also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available. As I've said in the past few reports, we are really in need of financial support at this point, whether it's through a reading or through a donation. So please contact me if you are so inclined. As always, I'm blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for these ancient mysteries, their synthesis and application to our journey during this incarnation. As the light in me honors the light in you. Namaste. In Lakesh, and as Ra would say, love yourself. All my best, and look forward to connecting with you in the future.